Chapter 52 The Ice Empress Armor. The referees had arrived in the arena, but there wasn't anything they could do at this point. The battle had already ended, and as if to mock them, a purple ring of light rose from the Wind Tiger's body. A kill. There had only been a single collision between Dalu and the Wind Tiger, yet Dalu had savagely overwhelmed the Wind Tiger, a 1,000-year soul beast, with brute force, and had torn its body in half. Dalu's body was drenched in the Wind Tiger's blood. The students from both Class 1 and Class 2 had all become pale-faced, while some female students couldn't even bear to continue looking. Only Douluo had an extraordinary splendor in her eyes. After all, this was the man whom she most admired. She loved to see how valiant Dalu was. Dalu, didn't you hear me tell you to stay your hand? Douluo's angry voice rang out. The death of a 1,000-year soul beast wasn't exactly a small loss to the academy. It wasn't easy for them to capture a 1,000-year soul beast and domesticate it, nor was it easy to soothe Dong Qinglong. Dalu indifferently replied, a battle between soul masters and soul beasts is always one of life and death. Since it wanted to kill me, why couldn't I kill it? Besides, I couldn't stay my hand. If I had, its counterattack could have injured me. In order to obtain full marks, I needed to avoid the error that Wang Dong made. I didn't have the 30% chance of failure that he did. As for the academy's loss, I'm willing to compensate the academy for it. Douluo furrowed his brows tightly. Even though Dalu was powerful, he was still too vicious. Furthermore, the personality of a rebellious student like him would grow stronger and stronger as his power increased, which would make it harder to control him. Douluo glanced towards Yan Xiaosh, who nodded slightly and whispered a few words to him. Douluo sat back down and spoke in a low voice. Dalu, you have obtained 100 marks as your base score for choosing a 1,000-year soul beast during the advancement test. The way you met force with force also embodied the strong points of an assault type soul master. However, your technique was somewhat lacking. You've obtained 45 marks for your battle technique. You will also have to compensate the academy's loss within 10 days. If you don't, the academy will strip you of your status as a core disciple. Yes. Dalu had somewhat regained his composure by this point. He naturally wouldn't go against Douluo's word. He bowed slightly, saluted, then walked back towards his class with large strides. He'd obtained a total of 145 marks. This was an outstanding result that neared perfection. A score like this had never appeared within the Year 2 advancement test in the past, at least in Wang Yan, Zhou Yi, and Yu Jin's memories. In reality, Dalu's performance truly had neared perfection. Though his hands had been injured, he'd retained his fighting strength. Moreover, he'd valiantly killed a 1,000-year soul beast in battle despite being only 12 years old. Having such a cultivation at his age was extremely rare, even in the history of Shrek Academy. This was the main reason that Dean Yan Xiaosh had still given him such a high score. Yan Xiaosh could tell that a student like Dalu was different from Wang Dong, though he had a steadfast personality. Dalu could break too easily. He couldn't try to control him by giving him a setback like he had with Wang Dong. He could only guide him slowly. Giving him a high score would benefit his confidence in himself. That, and Yan Xiaosh was confident that he could control his rebelliousness. After all, he taught many other students who'd been even more rebellious. Furthermore, Shrek Academy was proud of its ability to train monsters. It wasn't worried about people with bad personalities. It was only worried that they wouldn't have the ability to back said personality up. When Yu Jin saw the blood-drenched Dalu walking towards her, she furrowed her brows. Dalu, head back and clean yourself up. You've already passed. However, Dalu shook his head. He towards Class 1, then raised his right hand's index finger and pointed at Huo Yuao. Huo Yuao was currently gazing straight at him. At that moment, Dalu realized that Huo Yuao's gaze was extremely calm, so calm that it almost icy. He didn't seem to have any intentions of cowering in front of his blood-drenched, savage appearance. On the contrary, he didn't relent at all when their gazes met. Huo Yuao knew that Dalu was telling him, it's your turn now. Indeed, it's my turn now. Huo Yuao clenched his fists tightly once he'd finished speaking. He nodded towards Wang Dong, then strode towards the arena with large strides. It took a few minutes for the arena to be cleaned up. Once it had been, the referee sent Huo Yuao's test form to the tall stage. Class 1, Huo Yuao. Huo Yuao reported his name calmly. As he did so, he stood tall and straight. Not only was he much more robust compared to a month ago, he was also quite a bit taller. Suddenly, the referee noticed that he was somewhat similar to Dalu. Was it in his appearance? They seemed to be slightly similar. However, it had more to do with the confidence they both exuded, the confidence that they would definitely win. Are you still going to choose a 100-year soul beast? The referee's impression of him was still fresh in his mind. This was the student who'd alerted even the Beast King 2 days ago. Huo Yuao shook his head. I choose a 1,000-year soul beast. A 1,000-year soul beast? The referee was stunned. Huo Yuao, you need to carefully think about this. You're only a 2-ring soul grandmaster. A 1,000-year soul beast is still a bit too much pressure for you. You saw what just happened. Even if we wanted to help you out in a close combat fight like this, it'd still take time for us to reach you. Despite his warning, Huo Yuao confirmed his decision unhesitatingly. Teacher, I've decided to take on the test's highest ranked opponent, a 1,000-year soul beast. He spoke very loudly, thus those atop the tall stage, as well as the other students, were all able to hear him clearly. Dalu's pupils contracted as a trace of astonishment appeared in his eyes. He's choosing a 1,000-year soul beast. What could he be relying on? He can't even use his second soul skill. Is he just relying on his spiritual shock? That skill's not too bad, but it's nowhere near enough to take on the likes of a 1,000-year soul beast. Could he even manage to break its defenses if it were to simply lie down and let him attack it? He's courting death. Does he think that they're pushovers because Wang Dong and I were able to defeat them? Dalu had obtained 145 marks, while Wang Dong had obtained 100 marks. In other words, Huo Yuao just needed to obtain more than 45 marks to win the bet. At the same time, the academy had requested that he not use his second soul skill during the test. In exchange, they had guaranteed that he would score at least 30 marks in order to ensure that he passed the advancement test. Douluo had undoubtedly made a decision like this in order to see what he was capable of. If he hadn't, Huo Yuao would be able to pass the test solely by relying on his imitation, just like his performance the other day. Let him. Douluo's voice rang out from atop the tall stage. All right. The referee responded. The arena had already been fully cleaned up by this point. Huo Yuao, are you ready? The referee asked. He nodded. The referee gestured towards the arena, then reminded him, pay attention to your safety. If you don't think that you can beat your opponent, do your best to protect yourself. Huo Yuao nodded slightly, but he didn't reveal any emotions on his face, as he was currently fully concentrated on the upcoming battle. As such, he couldn't even spare the effort required to say a word of thanks. He was just a 2-ring soul grandmaster after all. Furthermore, he couldn't even use his second soul skill. In a situation such as this, the difficulty of taking on a 1,000-year soul beast could be imagined. Of course, he naturally understood that he was somewhat inferior to Wang Dong and Dalu in terms of direct fighting strength. The only reason he dared to take on a 1,000-year soul beast was because of his confidence in his spiritual detection and the Ice Empress 2 soul skills. A pale golden light flickered as 2 soul rings rose from beneath his feet. Wang Dong and Dalu's 3 rings hadn't surprised any of the other students, but the students from Class 2 immediately cried out in surprise the moment his soul rings appeared. Both of them were white, which represented 2 10-year soul rings. Yet, would anyone truly dare to underestimate these 10-year soul rings? 2 days ago, they had both been blood red. At this point, almost no one who could tell what rank his soul rings truly were. Yan Xiaosh's gaze was fixed on his body, and his eyes flickered slightly. Even though he didn't have a martial soul like the spirit eyes that could enhance his eyesight, his spiritual perception and vision weren't any less than Huo Yuao's when he was using his spiritual detection due to his cultivation. What a strange skill. When he activates it, even I can't sense the intensity of the aura from his soul rings. Is his second soul ring truly a 10-year soul ring? Douluo furrowed his brows. Yan Xiaosh shook his head. There's no way it's a 10-year soul ring. We've seen thousands upon thousands of soul rings. How could a soul ring that's capable of imitating the aura of a 100,000-year soul ring possibly be a 10-year soul ring? If it were only a 10-year soul ring, could he really have scared 100 or 1,000-year soul beasts? If I were to make a guess, it's very likely that his soul ring is a 1,000-year one, just like Wang Dong's. Douluo was stunned. That can't be right. His first soul ring's only a 10-year one. How could his second one be a 1,000-year one? His body shouldn't have been able to withstand absorbing one. Yan Xiaosh shook his head. Don't forget that he has twin martial souls. Furthermore, it's extremely likely that his second martial soul had a late awakening. Though this occurs very rarely, it could have changed his physique. However, you mentioned that he left the academy by himself, and that he's an orphan. There's almost no chance that he'll be able to kill a 1,000-year soul beast by himself. Is there anyone outside the academy me who could help him out. At that point, their conversation stopped for the time being, as Hua Yuao's opponent had appeared, surrounded by an intense aura of heat. A fire-wreathed lion charged out from the beast cage. It was no wonder they were the highest-ranked opponents a student could challenge during the advancement test. Not only were the soul beasts Wangdong, Dai Huabin, and Hua Yuao faced thousand-year ones, there were all tyrannical existences such as lions, leopards, and bears too. Hua Yuao felt somewhat strange when he saw the flaming Lion King. He thought back to his match with Wu Feng. It was that match that had resulted in him obtaining Stable Queen in Class 1 and in sending Wu Feng to Class 2. Wu Feng, who stood near Dai Huabin, gazed towards Hua Yuao, her eyes filled with anger. She couldn't understand why a sense of fear towards him had welled up in her heart after their match. Despite him clearly being much weaker than her, it was because of this feeling that, during the months that followed their match, she hadn't issued him another challenge. Wu Feng didn't know why this had happened, but the unyielding look in Hua Yuao's eyes would frequently pop up in her mind. He's actually going against the flaming Lion King. This is gonna be a nice show to watch. Vicious thoughts popped up in Wu Feng's mind. It'd be good if it burned him to cinders. The flaming Lion King charged out of the beast cage and roared towards the sky. The lion's distinctive mane spread outwards and its fire-red fur looked even more formidable due to the fire surrounding it. It was much more robust than the wind tiger that Dai Huabin had faced. Its body was a full 3 meters long and its shoulders were 1.5 meters wide. Its muscles were outlined distinctly and its light brown eyes had a grim look to them. After letting out a roar, it shot through the air towards Hua Yuao. The flames around its body rose unceasingly as it charged towards Hua Yuao. The flames were so hot that they began to distort the air around them. Could Hua Yuao really take on a thousand-year flaming Lion King? It was even stronger than the bloodthirsty demon bear and wind tiger that Wangdong and Dai Huabin had faced. Dai Huabin did not believe for a second that such a miracle would occur. In his opinion, Hua Yuao wouldn't even be able to take a single blow from it. Hua Yuao stood unyieldingly as he faced the flaming Lion King's charge. He released his spiritual detection and locked it onto its body. Despite having faced a thousand-year soul beast in the past, it would be a lie to say that he wasn't nervous. This was still his first time facing a soul beast of its level by himself. However, he let out a mental sigh of relief once he sensed his opponent's attribute. By this time, it had already reached within 50 meters of Hua Yuao. A large majority of the audience was now focused on its body. Yet, due to their focus on the flaming Lion King, they didn't notice that a change had occurred to Hua Yuao's soul rings. This time, the change wasn't the color of his soul rings, but rather the number of them. His 2 soul rings had suddenly become a single one, though they still remained white. That single white soul ring emitted a weak and feeble light as a layer of translucent crystals silently covered his body. Every crystal was about the size of a fingernail and didn't hinder his movements even though they had covered his entire body. On the contrary, they formed a suit of armor made of ice. These crystals of ice were all hexagonal and multifaceted. Thus, any light that shone on these ice crystals would result in dazzling reflections. After the crystals of ice covered Hua Yuao's body, the flaming Lion King suddenly stopped. The blazing flames around its body converged and turned into a fiery light identical to its body, which then shot straight towards Hua Yuao. This was the flaming Lion King's innate skill, Flaming Clone Strike. The fiery light surrounding its body vanished as soon as it released this attack. However, the speed of its charge didn't diminish in the slightest as it continued to charge towards Hua Yuao. The referee had been following the entire situation closely. He felt somewhat surprised when a layer of ice crystals appeared on Hua Yuao's body. Just what was his martial soul? Furthermore, the audience had just noticed that his 2 soul rings were now just a single soul ring. This strange phenomenon sent the 2 referees into a daze for a brief moment. Naturally, this wasted some of their time. By the time they came back to their senses and realized that Hua Yuao might not be able to withstand the flaming Lion King's attack, it had already reached him. Douluo had already risen to his feet with his right hand pointed downwards. He could naturally see that the 2 referees wouldn't be able to make it in time to help Hua Yuao. Yan Xiaosh flicked his sleeve and blocked Douluo's hand. He smiled slightly and said, "No need." At that moment, the flaming clone strike had already struck Hua Yuao. Astonished cries began to ring throughout the entire stadium. Both Zhou Yi and Wang Yan rushed into the arena simultaneously. However, they suddenly stopped after taking 3 steps. They had just witnessed a miraculous scene. Right when the lion's flaming clone strike had collided with Hua Yuao's body, a layer of white mist surged from his body. Immediately after that, an illusory shadow flashed behind his body, following which, the lion's skill vanished without a trace. It was as though it had never occurred in the first place. After the white mist disappeared, Hua Yuao's body returned back to its normal state. He clasped his hands behind his back and glared at the lion coldly. "Scram!" he shouted with a stern voice. The huge lion had unexpectedly shivered before it turned around and ran away with its tail between its legs. Its terrified appearance was as though it had seen something extremely terrifying. Yet, it was only Hua Yuao who stood there, with a completely nonchalant attitude. The 2 referees were left dumbstruck. Last time, a 100-year soul beast had been paralyzed from fear in this time. A 1,000-year soul beast had been scared to the point of fleeing. Furthermore, he had withstood its attack without releasing a 100,000-year soul ring. Just what had happened? All the teachers within the arena were baffled. Yan Xiaosh slowly rose to his feet, turned towards Douluo and spoke. "I'm going to head back now. Hua Yuao gets full marks for his advancement test. I want this kid." With that, he took a step forward and left the tall stage. Then, he flashed through the sky and disappeared. Of all the spectators observing the match, the only person who had clearly seen what Hua Yuao had done was Yan Xiaosh. After he was struck by the lion's flaming clone strike, a white mist had poured from Hua Yuao's body. At the same time, the crystalline ice armor he wore had turned jade green. Furthermore, an illusory image had appeared behind him as the white mist floated upwards. It was a 1.5 meter tall scorpion, and Yan Xiaosh had clearly seen the scorpion coldly glare at the flaming Lion King with its crystal yellow eyes. At that exact moment, the lion had fizzed itself. This wasn't the sense of fear caused by his imitation skill, but a true intimidation caused by the attribute of his martial soul. It was just like the intimidation Dai Huabin's white tiger released towards the wind tiger. Yan Xiaosh's emotions surged violently as he hurriedly left. It had already been 76 years since he'd entered Shrek Academy, but this was the first ultimate element martial soul he'd seen. Ultimate ice. This was the ultimate ice attribute. The fire-type flaming Lion King was frightened to the point of fleeing by Hua Yuao's ultimate ice-type martial soul. This was the absolute suppression that stemmed from their attributes. Only Yan Xiaosh had been able to see through everything clearly, and he had made many decisions as a result. The skill Hua Yuao had just released was called the Ice Empress armor, and it was the other skill that the Ice Empress 400,000-year soul ring had given him. The Ice Empress pincer and the Ice Empress armor were absolute godly skills. Only, the current Hua Yuao wasn't able to reveal their true strength. However, the strength required to send a fire-type opponent fleeing through elemental suppression posed no problem to him. Yan Xiaosh had left earlier because he had seen what he had come to see. Now, all he needed to do was figure out a way to make Hua Yuao stay in the martial soul department without losing face. A slight sinister smile appeared on Yan Xiaosh's face. Shen Duo. I was taken in by your scheme this time, but let's see who gets the last laugh. My martial soul department is the true #1 department on the continent, and we have certain things that your soul tool department doesn't. If this dean doesn't hesitate to spare no expense, he. It's all worth it for an ultimate element. The silence in the arena vanished following Yan Xiaosh's departure, and the spectators all flew into an uproar. Just what in the world had occurred? Dai Huabin's earlier feat of killing a 1,000-year soul beast was already enough to astonish them, but Hua Yuao hadn't even made a move. Yet, he'd sent his opponent fleeing by merely withstanding a single blow from it. This was even more stunning than a direct kill. But, just what did he use to achieve this? After all, he wasn't allowed to use his imitation. Dai Huabin's confident eyes turned somewhat dazed. He muttered to himself, just how could this happen? How could this? At this moment, Douluo's voice boomed across the arena. Hua Yuao's test is over. According to the dean's evaluation, Hua Yuao has obtained 150 marks. He passes with full marks. The astonished cries of various students immediately rang out. They didn't even know that the dean had been watching this round of the advancement test. Without a doubt, Douluo's announcement of Hua Yuao's score had been made made even more persuasive with his use of the dean's name. Huo Yuao slowly walked back to the area where the rest of the class 1 students were waiting. In reality, even he didn't know that a situation like this would occur. It hadn't even been his own intention to yell out the word scram. In that instant, the Ice Empress had awakened. The Ice Empress had urged him to yell that out, and as a result, Grand Flaming Lion King was actually scared witless. The might of the Ice Empress Jade Scorpion was truly terrifying. Without even waiting for Huo Yuao to return, Wang Yan instinctively ran up to him. Though his eyesight wasn't as good as Yan Xiaoxi's, his research in the field of martial souls was extremely profound. Moreover, he more or less understood Huo Yuao's abilities, which resulted in him obtaining a few ideas as to what had really happened. Yuao, you, just now, the soul skill you used just now, what happened? Your 2 rings became a single ring. Don't tell me you have 2 martial souls. Your second martial soul belongs to the ice element. Wang Yan's words rang out like a string of cannon shots. Huo Yuao might have been able to conceal the truth from other people, but Wang Yan had always treated him extremely well. Furthermore, he had always been extremely concerned about Huo Yuao's growth. The heartfelt respect that Huo Yuao held towards teacher Wang was no less than the respect he held for Fan U and Zhou Yi. He nodded softly, affirming Wang Yan's guess. Wang Yan's eyes lit up. Were you late because of your second martial soul? Is it because it just awakened? Come, follow me. There are some questions I'd like you to answer for me. He grabbed Huo Yuao's arm as soon as he'd finished speaking and left. Zhou Yi had an odd expression on her face when she saw him leave, but she couldn't leave since he had. In order to guide their students through the advancement test, a teacher was required to be present at all times. Huo Yuao had been dragged away, but Wang Dong was still there. Even though he had been just as surprised by Huo Yuao's performance, Huo Yuao was still his martial soul fusion companion. The stronger Huo Yuao was, the stronger their combined combat strength would be. Thus, although he was stunned, he was also greatly excited. He turned and looked towards Dai Huobin with a look of disdain, whose face had begun to alternate between shades of green and white. He ridiculed. How about it, Mr. Dai? It seems that you were full of shit this time around. What do you mean taking on both of us by yourself? Huo Yuao's score alone is enough to beat yours. Remember to honor your promise later. Hey, the feeling of looking down on you from above truly feels good. When he heard this, Dai Huobin became so angry that his entire body began to shiver. His blood-drenched body caused him to look even more sinister. Douluo almost rushed towards Wang Dong, while Wan Yu simply had an astonished look on his face. Dai Huobin grabbed a hold of Douluo. He'd unexpectedly managed to calm himself down after such a short amount of time. He looked towards Wang Dong and said indifferently, since I was willing to make a bet with you, I'm also willing to admit my defeat. I'll naturally honor my promise when I see Huo Yuao later. After he said this, he turned towards Mujin. Teacher Mu, I'm heading back to clean myself up first. With that, he let go of Douluo and glanced towards her with a deep look before leaving. The rancor and killing intent within Dai Huobin's eyes surged out like a waterfall as he left the great beast dueling arena. Wang Dong lips curled as he watched Dai Huobin's distant figure. He's actually quite a man. He still knows how to pay up when he loses. However, he didn't realize that Dai Huobin's loss today had thoroughly transformed him into a crazy madman who would disregard the consequences of his actions. Wang Yan dragged Huo Yuao all the way to his office, then shut the door once they'd entered. As soon as he'd shut the door, he impatiently inquired, Yuao, did you just awaken your second martial soul? Huo Yuao nodded, then proceeded to give Wang Yan the same explanation he'd given to Zhou Yi and Fan U. Wang Yan became somewhat tongue-tied as he listened to his story. Once he'd finished listening, he asked, puzzled, why would this happen? Just what in the world could cause this? This can't be right. Even if your body soul would have a second awakening, a brand new martial soul shouldn't have appeared. Twin martial souls are born at the same time. How in the world could a second one appear after the first? Was your second martial soul hidden from the very beginning? However, a situation like this has never occurred in the annals of history. The current teacher Wang was a completely fanatical scholar. He continued to ponder unceasingly as he talked to himself. Yuao, what exactly is your second martial soul? Wang Yan looked towards him, an urgent tone in his voice. Huo Yuao replied, I heard teacher Zhou say that it's the Ice Jade Scorpion. Wang Yan sharply inhaled when he heard this. Perhaps the other teachers wouldn't recognize the Ice Jade Scorpion, but he did. He had always devoted his efforts to the research of martial souls. Thus he had naturally done research on soul beasts that solely belonged to the extreme north. He naturally knew about the terrifying existences that lived in that place. I understand. Wang Yan's eyes lit up. No wonder that Flaming Lion King ran with its tail between its legs. Your second martial soul is actually an extremely rare ultimate martial soul. Heavens. It's actually an ultimate martial soul. Huo Yuao scratched his head. Teacher Wang, I think I've heard Teacher Fan U mention this as well. What does an ultimate martial soul mean? Currently, Wang Yan was looking at Huo Yuao the same way he'd look at a lover in a dream. Huo Yuao felt somewhat guilty when he saw this. What is an ultimate martial soul? How should I explain this to you? Let's put it this way. As you know, there are various ranks within the world of soul masters. Huo Yuao nodded. Wang Yan continued, within these ranks, it's appropriate to say that twin-souled soul masters are existences who stand at the top of the pyramid. Regardless of what their martial souls are, they're definitely much stronger than ordinary soul masters, due to the fact that they can add soul rings to their second martial soul after they reach a certain level of strength. However, twin-souled soul masters are extremely rare. You're one of them, and Xiao is too. It's the first time in the outer courtyard's history that 2 twin-souled soul masters have appeared at the same time. Besides a unique situation such as this, however, there are certain differences between martial souls. There are beast souls, and then there are tool souls. All martial souls have characteristics that belongs to them alone. Its existence is worth something as long as soul power appears when it awakens. Due to this fact, it's often very hard to differentiate strong and weak martial souls. Under different circumstances, or perhaps I should say, different domains, there won't be just one strongest martial soul. However, even though that's normally the case, there are a few martial souls publicly recognized as extremely powerful ones. The first of these are body souls. Body souls are extremely powerful due to the fact that they're a part of a soul master's body. A soul master's trained body is naturally more accommodating to their wishes when compared to a martial soul created after its awakening. Furthermore, a second awakening can occur in a body soul. This second awakening can both occur during the initial awakening of the body soul, or at higher ranks. I've been paying a lot of attention to your spirit eyes, in the hopes that I would be able to see it undergo a second awakening. A body soul will experience a qualitative leap when it undergoes its second awakening, and will become an existence that lords over ordinary martial souls. It's just like a 100,000-year soul beast that's broken through its limits. We can use the word transcendent to describe martial souls that have achieved this. When a martial soul can be referred to as transcendent, it's obvious that it will definitely be much stronger than a normal martial soul. Besides body souls that have undergone their second awakening, there is another type of martial soul that can be classified as a transcendent martial soul, ultimate martial souls. An example of this would be your second martial soul. Huo Yuao conscientiously listened to Wang Yan's explanation. He'd never expected ultimate martial souls to be evaluated this highly. The more Wang Yan spoke, the more excited he got. His face turned slightly red as he continued. The strength of ultimate martial souls is reflected in the word ultimate. There are several different types of ultimate martial souls, and they can belong to any element. However, for a martial soul to reach the pinnacle of any element is easier said than done. If it's lacking even a little bit, it can't be considered to have reached the pinnacle. You've seen Wu Feng's Red Dragon. It's a relatively top-ranked martial soul within the fire element. However, her fire is an ultimate fire. In fact, there's a large gap between her fire and ultimate fire. Because of that, we say that her martial soul is a fire dragon, not a true fire dragon. When a true fire dragon appears, it's capable of scorching everything within 1,000 miles. However, your Ice Jade Scorpion is a true ultimate ice martial soul. Ice Jade Scorpions are soul beasts that live within the extreme north. The extreme north is an area that we humans simply cannot enter. Soul beasts are the absolute masters of that place. According to the legends, there are 3 extremely powerful ice-type races who live within that extremely frigid world. They are known as, respectively, the Kine Ice Devils, the Ice Jade Scorpions, and the Snow Ladies. The kings of their respective races are known as the three emperors of the extreme north. I can guarantee that these emperors are transcendent soul beasts. A sense of admiration spontaneously arose in Huo Yuao's heart when he heard Wang Yan say this. His description of the extreme north was identical to what the Sky Dream Ice Worm had said. In a situation where there was no way for them to collect any information from that place, teacher Wang somehow possessed this much knowledge about it. The amount of dedication he put towards the research of soul beasts could be seen from this. Even the newly awakened Ice Empress couldn't help but praise that he was somewhat knowledgeable. Wang Yan naturally didn't know what Huo Yuao was thinking. He continued excitedly. The Snow Ladies are supposedly the strongest race within the extreme north. Nobody's clear about their origins, but I strongly suspect that they have human blood. Their appearance resembles those of humans as well. They're definitely ultimate martial souls. Other than the Snow Ladies, there's the Ice Jade Scorpions, who have also reached to the pinnacle of the ice element. However, the Titan Ice Devils, who are likewise one of the three strongest races in the extreme north, can't be considered to have achieved transcendence in terms of their element. As far as I know, I've never heard of a Snow Lady or an Ice Jade Scorpion appearing as a human's martial soul. I didn't think that I'd actually be able to see one during my lifetime. Furthermore, it even turned out to be one of my students. Huo Yuao was somewhat embarrassed. Teacher Wang, I'm not even clear as to what happened to myself. Wang Yan replied, ultimate martial souls are extremely rare. The academy's entrance contains the sculptures of the first generation Shrek's 7 monsters. They were extremely powerful. Even the founder of your Tang sect, ancestor Tang San, was one of them. However, none of them had an ultimate element. In the 10,000-year history of our academy, an ultimate element martial soul has only appeared thrice before. They were, respectively, ultimate wind, ultimate fire, and ultimate wood. This is the first time the ultimate ice element has appeared. In the past, the three of them all managed to achieve extreme fame amongst their contemporaries. Of them, the most famous is the possessor of the ultimate fire martial soul. It was under his leadership that the three original empires of our Douluo continent were able to defeat the Sun Moon Empire. Later on in his life, he created an extremely powerful clan. However, the martial souls that his descendants inherited didn't have the word ultimate attached to them. Do you know why ultimate martial souls are so rare? Huo Yuao shook his head blankly. Wang Yan continued, it's because it's extremely hard for our bodies to endure an ultimate martial soul. Think about it. Regardless of whether it's your ultimate ice or that ancestor's ultimate fire, the extreme amount of power that appears once it awakens could easily blow a soul master's body apart. Without an unusual amount of innate talent, a person simply couldn't withstand it. Because of this, the chances that an ultimate element will appear on the continent are minuscule. They're exponentially rarer than body souls. Based on what you've said, I'm going to make an outrageous hypothesis. Your second martial soul had already appeared when you first awakened your martial soul, but a mutation occurred and it gained a shred of intelligence. Its element was too tyrannical, thus it must have restrained itself. Thanks so much for watching this video. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Also leave a comment down below with suggestions on what novels to read.